Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are looking into something I think we can all relate to, that feeling of being stuck.
Oh, yeah.
But the cool thing is we're going to be looking at it from a scientific angle.
Interesting.
We're going to be looking at it in terms of neuroplasticity and how we can use that to break free.
Okay.
Our source material is formatted kind of like a script for a YouTube video, which is kind of cool.
Uh-huh.
And right off the bat, one of the things that jumped out at me was this idea that our brains are basically programmed to look for comfort and avoid risk.
Right.
It's like we all have this inner caveman like freaking out about saber-toothed tigers while we're trying to decide if we should launch that side hustle.
Yeah, that instinct to play it safe. I mean, it was super useful back in the day.
Right.
But now, like you said, it can be a total roadblock.
Yeah, it can definitely hold us back. So let's break down this feeling of being stuck. I think everyone has felt that way at some point. Career, relationships, creative projects, it can feel like you're hitting a wall. So what does the source material say about the reasons we feel this way?
Well, it points to some of the things you might expect.
Yeah.
Fear of failure, that self-doubt that creeps in,
Oh, yeah.
and that just constant negative self-talk.
Yeah.
These can really trap us. And it all goes back to that caveman brain idea.
Okay, I'm really interested to hear more about this caveman brain.
All right, well, deep in our brains, we've got structures like the amygdala, which is basically our alarm system for fear.
Okay.
Back in the caveman days, a burst of fear from the amygdala meant run from that tiger.
Right.
Super helpful.
Yeah.
But now that same fear response happens when we even just think about, taking a risk.
Oh, like applying for a new job.
Exactly. Or sharing your art. And we just freeze up, stuck in that avoid danger at all costs mode.
So we're playing this like prehistoric survival game, but in the modern world.
Pretty much.
No wonder it feels like an uphill battle. But the source material also mentioned this analogy about our brains being like a garden.
Right.
So how does that fit in?
It's such a good analogy. Think about it. Each thought you have is like a seed.
Okay.
And if you're constantly feeding those negative thoughts, I'm not good enough, I'm going to fail, it's like you're just watering weeds. They just grow and spread.
Wow, that's a good point.
But the amazing thing is we can choose to plant different seeds, those positive, empowering thoughts.
I like that.
And that's where neuroplasticity comes into play.
Okay, neuroplasticity. So I've heard the word, but honestly, I'm still not 100% sure what it is.
Sure.
Can you break it down for me and how it relates to this stuck feeling?
Simply put, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to, rewire itself.
Really?
It's this awesome ability to create new connections based on what we do, think, and experience.
So it's not like our brains are just set in stone.
Nope, not at all. It happens throughout our entire lives.
Oh, wow.
Our brains are always evolving.
So wait, are you saying that I'm not doomed to repeat the same, self-sabotaging patterns forever?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh, wow.
Neuroplasticity gives us the ability to, consciously reshape our brains.
That's amazing.
We can create new patterns that work for us. And it's not just about thinking positive. It's about changing the actual physical structure of our brains.
So it's not just all in our heads. It's like a real physical change.
It is. And there are actually different types of neuroplasticity at play.
Different types. Okay, now you've got me really curious. What are they?
Well, there's synaptic plasticity, which is all about how the connections between our neurons get stronger or weaker, depending on how much we use them.
Okay.
It's like creating a well-worn path in your brain.
So the more we use those positive thought patterns, the stronger those pathways become.
Exactly. Then there's neurogenesis, which is the birth of brand new brain cells.
Wow, I thought that stopped happening when we were kids.
So did scientists for a long time, but turns out it keeps going even into adulthood.
That's pretty incredible.
It happens especially in the areas of the brain that handle learning and memory. So when you're learning something new or really challenging yourself, you're actually making new brain cells.
That is so cool. So it's not just about changing the existing connections, it's about literally building new ones.
Precisely. So the potential for change is really enormous.
Knowing that my brain is capable of that is super motivating. But I guess knowing it can change and actually making it happen are two different things. Where do we even begin?
That's where the source material gets super practical. It gives us 3 actionable strategies to start rewiring our brains for success. And the great thing is, you can start using them today.
I'm all about action. Give me the tools. What's the first strategy?
The first one focuses on tackling those negative thoughts we were talking about.
Yeah.
Those unwelcome guests that just overstay their welcome in your mind.
Oh, I know them well. They're like squatters in my mental space.
Exactly. So the source material suggests this. Next time you catch yourself spiraling into negativity, Hit pause.
Like literally stop.
Yeah, literally take a pause and question those thoughts.
Okay.
Ask yourself, is this thought even true? What evidence do I have to back it up?
Mhm.
Or even better, what evidence do I have that proves it wrong?
It's like putting those negative thoughts on trial.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then the key is to replace that negative thought with a more empowering and realistic one.
So it's not about denying reality, it's about looking at it through a different lens.
You got it.
So instead of thinking, I can't do this, maybe it's more like, this is going to be tough, but I can learn and grow. Or even just, I'm going to give it my best shot. It's about focusing on what's possible, not just the limitations.
Exactly. You're literally creating new neural pathways, those pathways of possibility, just by choosing those thoughts.
Wow, I'm feeling more optimistic just talking about it. Okay, so that's strategy number one, challenge those negative thoughts. What's the second one? How else can we rewire our brains for success?
The second strategy is all about gratitude.
Gratitude, okay. I'm smiling just hearing that word. But how does being thankful actually rewire our brains? It just seems so simple.
It might sound simple, but the effects are powerful. When we practice gratitude, we shift our focus from what we're lacking to what we already have.
Okay.
And neuroscientifically, when we're grateful, we activate those reward centers in our brains, like the ventral tegmental area.
Wait, so being grateful lights up the same part of my brain as when I experience pleasure?
Exactly. And that's not all. Gratitude actually, calms down the amygdala.
Oh, the fear center.
Right. So we're not just feeling more positive emotions, but we're also reducing those negative ones.
So just by being grateful for what we have, we're basically rewiring our brains to see the positive, even when things are tough.
Yeah. And the source material has this great tip. Start each day by writing down 3 things you're grateful for.
Oh, like a gratitude journal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be big things, even something as small as a good cup of coffee or a sunny day.
You know, I've heard of gratitude journals, but I always thought they were kind of cheesy. But now that I know the science behind it, how it actually rewires our brains, I kind of want to try it.
So, okay, that's strategy number 2. What's the third one? How do we actually start taking action when we feel so stuck?
The third strategy is all about taking action, but with a bit of a twist.
Okay, I like twists.
The source suggests we take small, consistent actions instead of trying to make huge changes all at once.
Okay, I can get behind that. Sometimes those big goals can feel so overwhelming that you end up doing nothing at all.
Right. It's like analysis paralysis.
Exactly.
So that's where those baby steps come in. Remember, synaptic plasticity?
Yeah, the strengthening of those connections.
Right, it happens gradually. So even those tiny actions, if you do them consistently, have a huge impact over time.
So instead of saying, I'm going to write a novel, which feels impossible, I could say, I'm going to write 1 page today. That's it. The source actually uses that exact same example. The key is to just build momentum with those small wins. Each step you take strengthens those pathways and gives you the confidence to keep going.
You know, this reminds me of something I've been struggling with. I really want to start meditating regularly, but I always make excuses.
What kind of excuses?
Oh, I don't have time or I'm not good at it.
Sounds like your amygdala is trying to hijack your good intentions.
Probably.
But you can use these strategies to outsmart it. What if you commit to just 5 minutes a day?
5 minutes. Yeah, I could do that.
Exactly. That feels manageable, right? And instead of saying, I'm not good at it, focus on the benefits. What would you be grateful for if you were meditating consistently?
That's a good question. I guess I'd be grateful for feeling calmer,
Hmm.
more focused, less reactive. Actually, just thinking about that makes me more motivated to do it.
See, you're already starting to rewire those pathways. And every time you meditate, even for a few minutes, you're reinforcing them. It gets easier to make it a habit.
Okay, this is all making sense now. So we've got these 3 strategies. Challenge negative thoughts, practice gratitude, and take consistent, small action. But when you look at the big picture, what we're really talking about is taking control of our own minds, right?
That's it. It's really empowering. We're not just stuck with whatever thoughts and feelings pop up.
Right.
Neuroplasticity gives us the ability to become the architects of our own minds.
Wow.
We can design it to support our happiness and our success.
That's incredible. But sometimes I wonder if it's almost too good to be true.
What do you mean?
Well, if it were this simple, wouldn't everyone be walking around with perfectly rewired brains and living their best lives?
You bring up a good point. Rewiring your brain isn't about becoming some kind of superhuman or reaching this perfect state of bliss. It's about learning to deal with the challenges and setbacks that are just a normal part of life.
So it's not about pretending that everything is perfect. It's about learning how to deal with those tough times.
Exactly. And that ability to choose how we respond to things, that's what's powerful. It helps us move from that feeling of being stuck to feeling resilient and resourceful.
I like that. It takes the pressure off of having to be perfect all the time. It's like we can be more compassionate with ourselves when we stumble.
Exactly. And that self-compassion is so important for making real lasting change. It's about enjoying the journey, with all its ups and downs, not just striving for some impossible ideal.
This has been so eye-opening. We've learned about why we feel stuck, the power of neuroplasticity, and these 3 strategies for breaking free. But I feel like there's still more to explore.
You're right. We've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to learn, like specific tools and techniques to help you on your journey of rewiring your brain.
I'm ready to dive deeper. What's next?
Oh,
Okay, so we're back, and I'm ready to keep going with this whole brain rewiring thing.
awesome.
We talked about those strategies, the whole self-compassion thing, but are there any specific tools or techniques that we can actually use?
Yeah, absolutely. One tool that's really helpful and you hear about a lot in self-improvement is journaling.
Oh yeah, journaling.
It might seem kind of old school,
Right.
but there's a reason it's been around for so long.
Oh, okay, so I've tried journaling before, but honestly, I never quite stuck with it.
Yeah, it's tough.
I start out all excited, and then my journal ends up, just sitting on the shelf.
Yeah.
Any tips for actually making journaling a regular thing?
I think the key is to find a style that works for you.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong way to do it. Some people like those journals with prompts,
Oh, yeah.
and others just prefer to write whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
But the most important thing is to be consistent,
Consistent, yeah.
even if it's just for a few minutes every day.
So it's more about consistency than the amount of time I spend journaling.
Exactly. Think about it in terms of neuroplasticity.
Okay.
Every time you repeat a thought or a behavior,
hmm
you're making those neural pathways stronger.
So even if it's just a few minutes, it's still making a difference.
Yeah. And you can use your journal for, all sorts of things.
Like what?
Processing your emotions, keeping
Yeah.
track of your progress,
Okay.
brainstorming ideas,
Mm-hmm.
practicing gratitude, or even just like dumping all your thoughts onto the page.
Oh, like a brain dump.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It helps to get everything out of your head and onto the paper.
I like that. It's like a mental detox.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And once those thoughts are out there, you can actually start to see them more clearly.
Right.
You can decide which ones you want to challenge and which ones you want to, focus on.
That makes sense. It's like taking stock of what's going on in your mind.
Right.
So journaling is one tool. What are some other techniques for rewiring our brains?
Another really powerful technique is mindfulness meditation.
Oh, meditation. I mentioned wanting to try that,
You did. You did.
and you seem to be a big fan.
I am. I can't recommend it enough.
But how does meditation actually rewire our brains?
Well, studies have shown that when you meditate regularly, it can actually change the physical structure of your brain.
Really?
It can even change how your brain functions.
Wow.
It can actually increase the gray matter in the areas that are responsible for attention, emotional control, and self-awareness.
Okay.
And it strengthens the connection between the prefrontal cortex, which handles planning and decision-making, and that amygdala, our fear center.
So it's like we're bulking up the parts of our brain that help us stay calm and focused.
Yes, exactly. You're training your brain to be more resilient.
So even when things get tough, we can handle them better.
Exactly. And you don't have to be, a meditation guru to get these benefits.
That's good to hear.
Even a few minutes of mindful breathing every day can make a difference.
Okay, you've convinced me. I'm putting meditation on my to-do list. So we've got journaling, meditation, anything else. What other brain-boosting tools should we know about?
This might surprise you, but physical exercise is super important for brain health too.
Really? So it's not just about being physically fit, it's about being mentally fit as well.
Exactly. When you exercise, it increases blood flow to your brain,
Okay.
which helps to nourish those brain cells and promotes neurogenesis, that birth of new brain cells we talked about.
Oh, right, right.
It also increases levels of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
BDNF, that's a mouthful.
It is. But it's basically like fertilizer for your brain, helps to strengthen the connections between neurons, and improves how your brain works.
So you're telling me that hitting the gym can help me, beat procrastination and actually achieve my goals?
Absolutely.
I had no idea exercise was so good for the brain. I guess I can't use the I don't have time excuse anymore.
Nope, not at all. And it doesn't have to be super intense exercise either.
Oh, that's good.
Even a brisk walk or yoga class can help.
Okay, this is all so amazing. But it also makes me wonder, if our brains are always changing based on our experiences, does that mean we have to be really careful about what we're, putting into our minds?
That's a great point. Every experience, every piece of information we take, it shapes our brains in some way.
So it's not just about our thoughts, but it's also about, like, the books we read, the shows we watch, the people we hang out with.
Exactly. It's like we're creating a mental diet for ourselves.
So we need to make sure we're feeding our brains with healthy things.
Right. Just like with a regular diet, it's all about balance.
Okay.
It's fine to have some mental junk food every now and then,
Right.
but we don't want that to be our main source of nourishment.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah,
This has been such a fascinating conversation.
it has.
We've learned about the science behind feeling stuck, how powerful our thoughts and actions are, and we've got those practical tools and techniques for rewiring our brains.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important takeaway is that you are not stuck.
That's good.
You have the power to change your brain and change your life. It's not about being perfect. It's about enjoying that journey of growth and transformation.
That's a really great message. It's a good reminder that we're all a work in progress.
We are. We are.
Thank you so much for sharing all this with us today.
Of course. It's been a pleasure.
It really has. And to all of you listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Keep those minds curious,